One of the most important concepts that we will discuss in this class is the role that you have as a professional educator. Now, the textbook in chapters 1 and 2 get right at this early on, and I'd like you to begin thinking about the importance of several key concepts. The first chapter talks about preventive law, and on page 10 of the textbook there is a chart that we will look at again later in the course. But this chart explains how a professional educator takes into consideration concepts like foreseeability. Can I foresee that this is going to be a problem, and what can I do to prevent it? What is the information that I have to have before I make a decision that is going to prevent a particular thing from happening? Now, this whole notion is based around the concept of public school educators being agents of the state. We are employed by the state of Idaho or the state of Alaska, whatever state you happen to be in, and so you are a government official. A state actor is an important concept to keep in mind, because the Constitution of the United States and statutes all address both what you can do as a state agent and what you cannot do as a state agent. For example, the Constitution of the United States in the First Amendment talks about Congress shall make no laws. Congress shall make no laws. In other words, the First Amendment was a prohibition on what the federal government can do to intervene in the lives of a citizen. Later on, after the Civil War, Congress added, and the states approved, the 14th Amendment. And the 14th Amendment talks about no state shall. No state shall. So the 14th Amendment captured everything that was in the Constitution that prohibited the federal government from intervening in the lives of citizens and applied it to state law. So the 14th Amendment is sometimes called the Incorporation Amendment. The 14th pulls in protections for citizens that are guaranteed by the Constitution against intervention of the federal government. So the state government also has limitations. Very important concepts that we are both trying to make decisions that prevent risk, while at the same time as a state agent we have to understand that we have authority to make those decisions, but our authority is limited. And that's what we get into in Chapter 2 of the book. The title of Chapter 2 is The Legal Environment. Keep in mind that the United States Supreme Court has determined that the school is a unique, non-adult, regulated environment for kids. Let me run that by you again, that the school is a regulated environment. The Supreme Court of the United States has made that very clear, that a school is not the same as the adult marketplace of free speech. That students come to school and they enter, when they walk through that door, they enter a legally regulated environment. But, as I mentioned in this particular module, that doesn't mean all student behavior is regulated. Your role as a professional educator is both to regulate and to protect student rights. When you protect student rights, you keep in mind, for example, the Barnett case on the flag salute and the national anthem. You cannot regulate that kind of student speech, and in fact you must protect it. You must protect the student right to protest when it is passive, non-disruptive, symbolic speech. And those are the words that the Supreme Court would later use in the famous Tinker v. Des Moines case that's mentioned in Chapter 2. In Tinker, the Supreme Court used the language, students do not shed their constitutional rights at the schoolhouse door. So when those students walk through the door, they know they're entering a regulated environment. But many of them also know they're entering an environment where they do have rights and that the school cannot take those rights away from them. They cannot regulate those rights. And we'll find that this notion of the legal environment of the school as a regulated environment has limitations. And so this short video is a reminder to you as a professional educator that your role is both to regulate an environment that advances the mission of the school, learning, while at the same time developing citizenship by protecting student rights that are not regulated. You have to do everything you can to ensure that students understand that they have those rights. We're going to spend quite a bit of time in this course on student speech and on the whole notion of due process, that you are protecting through due process both the regulation and the student rights. It's this fulcrum that I ask you to think about in this module. What would be a visual representation of your role as an educator to both regulate and to protect student rights?